everyone, welcome back to the Whiskey Pour. I hope you're having a good day today. My name is Danny, and today I want to talk about whiskies that everyone sleeps on. Now, I know we've been talking about whiskies that punch above their weight, but this is different. Whiskies that punch above their weight is more about whiskies that kind of over-deliver for their price. I'm talking about whiskies that are more underrated than they should be. This is regardless of price. I'm talking about whiskies that don't get the recognition that they deserve. They kind of get ignored or left on the shelf sometimes, and I think they shouldn't be. Also, a side note, I know that a lot of you are from different places in the world, which is amazing. So I've tried to go for things that, despite the fact they might not be that popular, they're still going to be relatively available from most places in the world. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I've included whiskies from all over the world in this video, but the first one I'm going to start with is in Speyside, and it's the Glen 15. Now, I think this normally gets overlooked because it's quite easy to get in a supermarket. People assume that it is automatically a sort of budget filler whiskey. It's got a pretty plain label. It's not all over social media like some bottles. People just assume that it's going to be not that great. But in reality, it's a really solid Speyside style whiskey. It's very clean and fruity. It's matured mostly in bourbon casks with some sherry cask in the mix. It's the definition of easy weekday Speyside drinker, if you know what I mean. It's not the kind of whiskey that's going to be anything especially original, but it's got really nice orchard fruit notes and honey notes. It's just such an easy drinker for a really good price, and I think it gets underrated, and it shouldn't be. Number 2 is Ardmore Legacy, and I've gone for this because, again, it's got that lower price point, which sometimes people assume means that it won't taste good. And I also think that people assume that if they want a peated whiskey, they should go for something from Islay, and this is a Highlands whiskey. And don't get me wrong, this is not heavily peated by any means. This is a very softly peated whiskey. It's got more sort of wood smoke notes rather than anything like iodine or bonfire or anything like that. It's very soft, a very good introduction to peat. If you're not someone who loves very smoky whiskey, this is quite a good way to sort of ease yourself into it. Yeah, it's a really approachable bottle and really good for the winter as well. And also, don't get me wrong, when I say it's a good way to ease yourself into smoke, this isn't a bottle that's just for beginners. People who drink whiskey all the time will still love this bottle because it has a good amount of complexity to it while still remaining really approachable and easy to drink. Alongside that smoke, it also has vanilla honey notes. It has that lightness and then it has that density from the smoke. It's a good balance of both. Now, this next one I feel is going to surprise some people because it is a Johnnie Walker bottle, and I know what you're thinking, Johnnie Walker can't be underrated, but I do have a reason for including this, and that is Johnnie Walker Green Label. People automatically assume is going to be cheap blend, particularly a blended scotch. Now, please don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with blended scotch. When it's done right, you can produce absolutely beautiful drams, but Johnnie Walker Green Label is actually a blended malt, which means that it is made of a combination of single malts from a few different distilleries. This particular bottle is a mixture of single malts from Talisker, Colilla, Linkwood and Cragganmore. Its age statement is 15 years, which means that the youngest liquid inside has been aged for at least 15 years, and it's bottled at around 43% in most markets. I think it varies slightly. When a blended malt is done properly and correctly and well, it can be a thing of absolute beauty, because a blended malt by definition means that it has the same DNA as a single malt, aka it's only made from barley. It's just a blend of single malts from different distilleries. So the master blender has that opportunity to really make it perfect, and has that advantage that they can choose a whiskey from different distilleries and are not limited to liquid from just one distillery. When someone with the right skill does this and pulls it off perfectly, you can really get some absolutely gorgeous whiskies. And I think that this whiskey is actually a really good example. It has a very light and fruity flavour profile, apples and pear notes, but it has that little tinge of very coastal smoke. salty smoke, and it works really, really well. The last scotch I'm going to talk about in this video is the Glen Cadam Ten. Now, I think Glen Cadam should get a lot more recognition than it does. They're not one of these distilleries that does huge amounts of marketing or things like that. The bottles aren't particularly loud or exciting, but the whiskey that they produce can be absolutely brilliant. And the Glen Cadam Ten, it's a sleeper, but it's great whiskey. Glen Cadam's been around since 1825, and they are very, very traditional in their approach. Old school style. They produce really delicate whiskies. This bottle is bottled at 46% ABV. It's natural colour, non-chilled filtered. It's matured entirely in bourbon casks, and it's very clean and fresh and citrus forward, malty and almost elegant. I think that's a really good word to describe it. Yeah, it's just really nicely balanced and light. Perhaps not a winter whiskey for me personally. It's more of a light summer drink, but then again, you do you. Okay, again, this next one might surprise you. We're moving over to American whiskey now. Wild Turkey 101. And I know this is absolutely everywhere, but I do think people still sleep on it because people kind of assume that it must be basic bar bourbon. It's super cheap and easy to find, especially as it has an ABV of 50.5%. It's not low ABV by any means. The truth is, this is aged 6 to 8 years. The master distillers, Jimmy and Eddie Russell, are absolute industry legends. They use a high rye mash bill. It's actually crafted superbly, which is so surprising for a whiskey of that price. In terms of taste, it's very orangey and caramel notes. It's nice and rich, a little bit of spice. I think people assume that if you are a whiskey drinker, kind of knows their thing, that a whiskey of this price can't be good, but in reality it's pretty solid. It's probably one of the best value bourbons out there. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Old Forester 100 proof. Now, this has been around forever, but I do think that it sometimes gets overshadowed by the flashier Brown-Forman siblings like Woodford Reserve. In reality, this actually has the same mash bill as Woodford. It's got a higher ABV of 50%. I just think it's got more punch for its price. Old Forester is one of the longest continually running bourbon brands in America, and I just think whiskey nerds quietly love this one. I just think it's got really good consistency and structure, and it's very old-fashioned traditional bourbon style and just really good value for what it costs, which is not very high. In terms of flavour profile, it's very deep and wintry, so caramel and cinnamony spice and nutmeg and cloves. I'm going to do something I don't normally do and talk about an English whiskey, and that is the Cotswolds single malt. Now, I think people sleep on this because people don't automatically associate English whiskey with being good, but I have to say, I was surprised by this. By the way, I've been talking and I forgot to actually sip my whiskey, so cheers. The Cotswolds distillery use local barley, they use long fermentations, they use STR red wine casks, which give it that kind of fruity but spicy edge. They also use ex-bourbon casks. It's bottled at 46%, non-chill filtered, natural colour. It's very big, fruity, textured whiskey. It compares nicely to a lot of great Scotch bottles. And I'm not saying that as a biased English person. It's a whiskey that has really good peach notes and orange notes, a little bit spicy, but not too spicy. England, you've outdone yourself. The last one I'm going to talk about is the one I'm actually drinking right now, and it's this. It's the Nikka from the barrel. It's a really small bottle. The label, I mean, this looks pretty basic. It also doesn't explain much on the label, so people kind of assume that this is nothing special. Historically, this was not considered Japanese whiskey because it included some whiskey that was imported. So according to the official definition, this would not have counted as Japanese whiskey. However, recent productions are made of only Japanese whiskey components, and therefore it does classify as Japanese whiskey. This bottle is a mix of malt whiskey and grain whiskey from Yoichi and Miyagikyo. It's bottled at 51.4%, so pretty decent ABV. It's just a really rich, almost concentrated power whiskey. Nice and oaky, but not too oaky, but also sweet and also a good amount of spice as well. It's one of those whiskies that has that really good balance of those three elements. Definitely unassuming when you look at it. But actually, this is a really great whiskey, I must say. I recommend. Anyway, that's the list I've put together of whiskies that I think that people sleep on more than they should. I'm sure I've missed out loads from this list, so let me know if you have any suggestions in the comments. And to be fair, I can think of quite a few I've missed off the list already, so let me know if you want to see a part 2 of this. I'm definitely down to do that. That's enough from me though. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll see you on the next one. Follow for more.